What's your secret that could literally ruin your life if it came out? I'm a guy in my late 20s who was taken into care aged 7. Everyone around me already knows that I was brought up by foster families because I had a really awful early childhood. I deliberately keep it vague and say stuff like I'd rather not go into it so that people will just assume I was abused in some way and they'll stop asking about it. The truth is that for the first 7 years of my life, I was brought up as a girl by my psycho birth mother who really wanted a daughter and didn't let the snag of giving birth to a boy stop her from trying to raise one. She was a pretty successful professional in a legal field, not entirely sure what, and had me via anonymous SPM donor from a fertility clinic. She found out I was a boy at a late ultrasound and then moved across the country. Gave birth to me at home and continued to move about until I was 5 or so. It was just the two of us all my life. We had contact with other people, of course, but they rarely got very close. I had lots of friends, but was always supervised. I found out way after that my mother's strong puritanical Christianity was a lie she used to explain why she was so strict about me being private and never letting anyone see me get changed or anything. I just accepted all of this as fact, having never been told anything different. I was sent to a religious school for girls and had a really great childhood. I was a bit of a tomboy, and played with Lego and toy animals, rather than dolls and stuff, but that's not unusual and no one ever questioned I was a girl, even me. I knew about men and women, but had never really seen much of NKD people. My mother never ever spoke to me about it, but I kinda had the impression that when I grew up and get breasts and stuff, my banana would kinda fall off or something and I would be a woman, and other kids would keep their bananas and they'd be men. I dunno, to be honest, I never really thought about it. Anyway, I carried on with my happy girlhood, and had a bunch of friends and everything was great until I was 7 and a teacher accidentally spilled a cup of hot coffee over me at school. The liquid soaked through my clothes and was scalding me, so the staff immediately stripped me out of my dress and undergarments to get the hot coffee away from my skin. And then they found out. The cops were called and I got taken to speak with who I guess would be social services. They asked me a bunch of questions about life at home and stuff. Meanwhile, my mother was taken in for questioning too. She refused to acknowledge me as male and insisted I was her daughter. Because she was, delusional and stuff, I wasn't allowed to go back home but got put with a foster family and went through loads of therapy and stuff. The worst part was that literally overnight, I lost everything. My mother, my home, all my toys, all my clothes. I moved school, so lost all my friends. They cut all my hair off and told me I wasn't a girl anymore. It was really traumatic. The first foster home wasn't that great. They had 3 boys already, and going from a sheltered religious-only child upbringing to a rough-and-tumble testosterone-filled environment was really difficult. They tried to force me to be masculine and I was just too confused about what they wanted. Anything girly was reprimanded and I felt so lost and alone because nothing I did was right. I tried to bring it all to an end at 11 and again at 13 because I didn't feel I fitted in anywhere. After the second attempt, they moved me to a different foster family who were awesome. I consider them to be my parents. They actually stood up for me. The first thing was that they let me grow my hair. In my previous foster family, they buzzed my hair short, and I hated it. They always had to hold me down and do it forcibly while I was crying and fighting. My new parents flatly refused to do it and said that loads of boys had long hair. They also let me quit karate and football and take up swimming and jazz dance. Since I'd been in care, no one had ever stood up for my right to choose what activities to do, or how to dress before. It was amazing. In the end, I came out of it with a pretty healthy gender identity. I'm a guy, but not the most butch guy ever, but I'm fine with that. I went through school and got my degree and have a pretty good job and an amazing, supportive wife. Everything looks great. But I can never speak about my early childhood, and how I grew up as a little girl. My cousin passed away when we were both 17. There was a reception at his house just after the funeral. I went into his room and stole all the money that was there, took some other valuables that his parents wouldn't realize were gone. No one knows that I did it, they just assumed he didn't have any money in his room, only loose change. I don't regret it, but I will never admit I did it. I run a cake business. I charge people hundreds for wedding cakes. Every last one is made using Pillsbury cake mix I buy for $1 a box at Walmart. I suck at baking. Every time I've ever tried to make a cake from scratch I suck. But baking is like my whole deal. My friends all call me the cake girl. It's like my whole life is a lie. People compliment my cakes all the time. Telling me how delicious they are. Telling me it's so much better than box mix cake. Telling me they could never bake a cake so delicious. Well, guess what? For $1, they too can make a cake just as delicious. Just add oil, eggs and water. In my defense, I love cake decorating. I make all of the frostings and fondant from scratch. I just hate baking cakes. I base my prices mostly on the decoration of the cakes and not of the cake itself, if that makes sense. No one knows about this except my husband. Even my best friends think I slave over the oven mixing and baking these damn cakes. I've been doing this for years. If anyone knew, my business and reputation would be gone for sure. I keep telling myself I have to learn how to make the damn cakes without the box mixes, but I never do it. I feel like such a sham sometimes. My mom is the most straight-laced, upright person you can imagine, and she works very high-level financial jobs for the government. If you looked up professional woman in the dictionary, it would probably just be a picture of her. What no one else knows is that she has a tattoo on the back of her leg of a bear with massive drawings of crazy big PP like tattoos. She wears tights or pants to cover it all the time. As far as I know, I'm the only person that knows about it. She was a very wild teenager and met up with an aspiring tattoo artist aka rando with a tattoo gun in a hotel room to get a tattoo of a bear. When she was 16, the guy got a little excessively creative and gave her a bear with PP for legs. It is so vulgar that if anyone saw it, I think there's a good chance she will lose her job, or at least have some serious explaining to do. I once asked her why she doesn't get it removed and she says it's her symbol to her stupid youth. Wouldn't really ruin his life, but it would be embarrassing. One of my buddies is a furry, like a massive furry. I was looking for some old Call of Duty videos we made in like 2009. I was just searching the old gamer tags, trying to figure out where they were, and a page for a furry website popped up. It had all his basic info on it, with an up-to-date age. I looked around the page and found an IRL pic from his room that I recognized. It had like 8 years of almost daily uploads/interactions on there. Haven't told anyone, can't really. Not going to be the guy that just bullies him or tells our other friends. He's not hurting anyone. But I'm also not gonna tell him I know, cause that would be mad awkward. I'm terrified I'm gonna let it slip when I'm drunk. My mom told me my stepfather is not my stepsister's biological father. My stepsister has no idea. My stepfather knows he is not the biological father. He found out when my stepsister had some blood work done as a baby. She's O negative. That isn't possible based on his blood type. He confronted his now ex-wife about it and she said it didn't matter. She said my stepsister was the result of an affair that was a one-time thing and that my stepfather raised her as his own and that shouldn't change. I will never tell her. It's not my secret to tell. Besides, my stepfather is her father as far as I'm concerned. She's smart, kind and a hard worker in large part due to him raising her, so I don't care if they don't share the same bloodline. He's an amazing man and I consider him one of my dads too. Not life-ruining, but makes me feel bad every time I think about it. As I've told Reddit before, I have a blind brother. When we were young, I used to get so frustrated at all the extra attention he received and how I had to be more responsible with my sibling than my peers. So, when my brother and I would go play, go to the store, or just generally go anywhere without adults, I would abandon him somewhere unfamiliar to him. Then, I would stand off quietly and watch the anxiety set in as he tried to figure out where he was and what was going on. Also, I was really intelligent as a child and knew that was my ticket to attention. When I would help my brother with his homework, I would teach him all the wrong answers, so that I could continue being the smarter sibling. Today, my brother is my best friend. He goes to college and lives by himself. He's become one of the most intelligent men I've ever met. I'm trying to make it up to him now by being the best big sister ever, but I still feel so guilty at how I found him to be a burden when I was a kid. I immediately called my brother after posting this and caught him while he was walking to a study group. I told him about my guilt and he laughed. He understands how frustrating it must have been. He told me that all of the good things I have done as a sister completely overshadow anything bad I did and that he loves me more than anything. I'm glad I spoke with him and I encourage others on here to talk to someone if they can. Me and my cousin have been doing it for 10 years now. It started when she was 12 and I was 13. We had to babysit the younger kids in our family while the parents went to a party, and when they fell asleep, me and her got to talking about a lot of stuff. I made a move and started kissing her, and she didn't resist. We ended up doing it on her bed that night. We would end up doing it almost every weekend when we lived with our parents, telling our parents we were going out to hang out with some friends, but actually hook up. I'm 23 with my own apartment now, and she comes over almost every day to make out. I just want to address everyone who says we should form an actual relationship. Our family would hate us forever. We once caught my cousin kissing a family friend, not even blood related, and he was isolated from the family. We both want our own things, and the making out is just an extra. Also, we're first cousins.